So Clemens, if you hear us or me, welcome to the Aurea Award 2021, and we are looking forward to your lecture.
So it's a pleasure to be here. Really happy to have received an invitation. First time at the Aurea Award. I've been absolutely blown away by the quality of the content and the speakers and the pitches that we've just seen. So thank you so much for inviting me and for giving me a chance to share a little bit about the story and our sort of journey at VTime. So my name is Clemens Wangerin, the managing director, and VTime is a company that it's been around for a while, but it's got I would say an interesting origin story, and hopefully over the next 20 minutes or so, what I'll share with you will give you some insight and allow you to sort of peek behind the curtain of what it's like to be a venture-backed VR startup in the social XR space. So by way of introduction, myself, I've been in the industry a long time, coming up to 30 years, unbelievably. I was very young when I started, as you can see by that picture there on the left. That's me at the Amiga Messe in Köln, the precursor to Gamescom. Anybody who's been in the games industry probably will remember that's the mecca for young people in the early 90s to do on an annual basis. But I've been very fortunate in the time that I've been in the industry to work with some incredibly creative and talented people, and manage studios going from very small startups to all the way up to 120 plus staff. And the games I've been involved with probably achieved sales of around 50 million units in total. And digital has always been a big fascination of mine, and something we were able to realize at Sony. We were developing the Wipeout franchise. We were one of the first titles to create DLC for Wipeout Pure on the PSP. And Wipeout HD, when it came out, was Sony's first ever digital-only release to really showcase, what was possible using that sort of form of distribution. At VTime, we've been focused exclusively on XR since 2014, and particularly around VTime, obviously, I've spent the last 3 or 4 years doing a lot of fundraising. Probably done about 150 plus pitches during that time. But I've been able to raise about circa 10 million euros in that time to be able to fund the business and to take us forward. So 2 of the key franchises I was responsible for at Sony were Wipeout and Formula 1. But really, the biggest challenge is always to bring together high-performing, incredibly talented creative teams. And again, I've been very fortunate to be able to assemble some real superstars in the teams that we've previously had the pleasure of working with. So both of those were big franchises for Sony. Both of them did very, very well. But at the core of everything we do is always the team, and getting the right people together, and the right team dynamic is so important for being successful in this space. So VTime's origin can actually be traced back to a company called Starship. Starship was Martin Kenwright's original company. So Martin is a serial entrepreneur. Martin has been in the games industry for a long time, even longer than myself. And if you were into flight sims back in the late 80s and early 90s, you might remember his company Digital Image Design. And after that, if you ever played rally games on PlayStation 2 or MotorStorm on PlayStation 3, he was founder of Evolution Studios. So he had 2 successful exits by the time he reached the sort of the 2000s. And Martin took some time out after his last exit, which was selling Evolution Studios to Sony. And during that time, he really had to think about what it is that he wanted to do. And when he decided to come back, Starship was the resulting company. And the idea behind Starship was always to use our experience and know-how, knowledge and technology and creative talent that we had honed in years of developing AAA video games, but use it in completely new and unexpected ways. And so Starship actually had a range of IPs that we worked on when we started. And they were all really, really, really different. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick whistle-stop tour through what those original IP were, and then I'll show you the sort of starting point that became VTime. So Playworld was an app, primarily for mobile. It was aimed at kids. It was all about superheroes. It was about using your creative imagination to craft yourself a sort of a hero suit out of cardboard, and then through the power of your imagination, get transported into this world where you were fighting off an alien invasion. Featured by Apple, it was a really, really great start to get the business going, to bring the team together, to get productive. It actually came out in January 2015, and it taught us a lot. But even at that time already, we were fascinated by the HoloLens and by holographic games in general. And so we had some concepts that were thrown around, what would happen if you were drawing a racetrack in the air with your finger and then sort of picking a vehicle to race on it, or if you had these sort of building blocks and would use it to sort of augment your living room and create these sort of fantastic worlds. But we also looked in areas like, assisted living, if you like. So, how can technology help when our memory fades? We were working on a second wearable brain, something that was, actually led us to register some patents. And we realized very quickly that some of that was maybe a little bit ahead of its time because, we were faced with a lot of technical challenges really from a hardware point of view in terms of, how do you deliver that? But it's something that's, Starship still is around in the background. It's on its next sort of 10-year mission, and it might even sort of come back someday. And then we did Cybercook. So Cybercook was all about, okay, we knew, everybody knows about the popularity of what everybody likes to eat, but also the popularity of cooking shows, huge popularity of cookbooks. But then we were wondering, well, is there a third way where you can turn it into an interactive experience? And Cybercook actually found its way out. We never developed a full-blown product, but we did get a sort of what we called a teaser or a slice in this case into the market, and it allowed you to cook a dish in a virtual way. We actually put this onto, and this ended up being our first VR title, and we put this on out for the Gear VR. So if you had a Gear VR around early 2015, I think it came out February 15, it was one of the first, if not the only title at that time that wasn't a game, that wasn't a space shooter, or wasn't, in that sort of, it was in a clear gaming adjacent category. So it turned a lot of heads, and it taught us a lot about VR. And one of the main things it taught us was that VR can be very lonely. And so we wanted to fix that. The term social VR didn't really exist back then. I'm sure, in terms of the sort of, general sort of vocabulary. But we were fascinated by this. All of us, grew up, sitting around a table with friends, and I think most of us know that idea. You have friends around for an evening of playing board games, and you sit around the table, or you play cards, or anything like that. And so we had this idea: you have a virtual kitchen, you have a virtual meal, and then you sit at the virtual table, and you have your sort of social interaction where you play maybe some sort of strategic board games or things like that. But we knew from creating the Cybercook experience that we wanted people to see each other, and we wanted people to be able to communicate with each other. So really the building blocks of VTime were laid right here. 4 people, communication, and the ability to see each other in real time and experiencing the same things at the same time. So it was something that started for us on Gear VR, but it actually has taken on quite a life of its own since then. And of course, it's not the only thing we'll do. So what I can do now is sort of be a bit more specific about the sort of journey as far as VTime is concerned, and what's really relevant, I guess, to the XR community in particular. So at VTime, we want to transform how people communicate with each other and engage, connect with the world around them. So we see digital experience as a key part of that. Of course, this year has been huge in terms of validating that for, I think, most of us that are in the space of virtual communications. But for us, the challenge is really that these digital experiences, they need to be as powerful as face-to-face interactions. Video is still the gold standard, but you're trapped in a 2D world, you're looking at a window, whereas of course we all know immersive is so much more powerful. It creates a world that you inhabit together. And so we're really focused on creating these enabling technologies through which we defy distance, and we still want real human connections to flourish. And there's a reason why we take an approach to our visuals of representing people in a stylized form, because it gives us a lot more creative control over what we call the small brush strokes. And the small brush strokes make all the difference when you're in an immersive experience with other users. How that manifests itself in our case is we use, for example, if you haven't got hand tracking controllers, we use just the audio to drive some animations to your hands so that as you talk, there is an element of natural movement as you talk. We also create eye contact between the avatars as they inhabit this virtual space. So as you turn your head to look at another user, another friend, that user's eyes will meet yours. And of course, there is no eye tracking yet in most of the headsets. But it's something that really, really makes a huge difference, and also is something that you would really struggle if we were going for that sort of photorealistic stage. The other thing that was really advantageous for VTime XR is we started on mobile and we scaled upwards. So even though we had the capabilities we could have started on high-end PC, we would have struggled very much to recreate that experience then on the mobile chipsets. So our starting point was we started on mobile and then we scaled up. And so if you look at the Rift version, for example, it looks fantastic because we really could go to town in terms of the virtual environments. But at the same time, we're giving ourselves the chance that if somebody is just on a Google Cardboard, they can still join the same rooms, they can still join the same experience. We're on about 14 different headsets and devices. You do not need a headset. You can run it in 2D on your phone or on PC. And we also have an AR mode in there. So if you download the app on Google Play or iOS, it actually allows you to use AR as well. So we're completely, I guess, cross-platform and cross-reality. And the app first came out in December 15, so we just celebrated our 5th anniversary. So we're right there with all the big names that have been around for that time, and we've been busy in terms of updating the app since then as well. We came out on Quest back in October last year, and we're seeing some really good session times. Quest is a fantastic format, and I think what's really good to see is, of course, how the user behavior continues to evolve, and especially with these sort of more complete hardware offerings now that allow a much easier way for users to engage with VR content in general. When we launched VTime XR, we didn't really know who the audience was going to be. I mean, other than it's people who are going to have a Gear VR. I mean, that was really the main thing. And what massively surprised us was just how different the different use cases that people would find off their own back, even though we never positioned it like that. So one example is we heard about the University of Melbourne using VTime to work with spinal patients who were unable to travel, who were in different geographic locations, who were brought together in a virtual world in VTime in order to do breathing exercises together and sing together in order to help alleviate their symptoms. And we were completely, our minds were completely blown, because for us, when we started, the sort of product, we thought, oh, this is going to be used by people to just have fun and have communicate with their friends, and that was pretty simple, and it very quickly realized just how much thirst there is in a lot of different areas in the world for finding better ways of communicating with other people, especially when it comes to young people. And so we have a relationship with Cornerstone Partnership, for example. One of the great things about VTime XR is we have the public network that you access through the app, but we can also create private networks on top of that. So we have a number of partners that we're for whom we're running private networks on top of the VTime XR network, and one of them is Cornerstone. And Cornerstone work with children and young people and families going through the fostering and adoption process. So they use it for immersive therapies. They find that young people are a lot more at ease when they are in virtual environments, and they find it a lot easier to open up and talk to others. And whether that's remotely or whether that's in an actual sort of setting where people are in a room together, it's just proved to be a real help for them in their work. So VTime was, like I said, 5th birthday. It's a live ops title. We're really happy with all the feedback we've been getting and great reviews and everything. But we always know that this future that we're striving towards, that is some 5-10 years off into the distance, is we need stepping stones to get us there. Just one product ain't going to cut it. And of course, one reason why we're raising venture funding is to help us create more technology and continue to improve our technology and continue to be productive by putting products in the market. Because for us, we want that real world user interaction. We need that feedback from users. We need to see and feel really whether our assumptions for how good these experiences are really true. And it's been massively helpful to have VTime XR, but VTag, we'll show a little video right at the end of the talk. For us, it's been all about, okay, we want to do something that helps seed the AR cloud. I think most people here are familiar with that concept, the Mirrorverse, the one-to-one digital copy of the real world overlaid and updated in real time, and all of that great stuff. It doesn't really exist yet, but we all know it's coming. But what we wanted to do is let's create something that allows people to create an avatar of themselves, record a message, use their facial animation, use their body movement, basically imbue this virtual character with everything, including their voice of themselves, and then be able to place that on a map in a physical location and allow other people to sort of collect it from there. Bad time to launch that in a global pandemic, so we had to do a bit of a pivot halfway through the project. And at the moment, it's more focused on content creation, so people use it to sort of jazz up, if you like, their social media content on TikTok and Instagram stories. So if you get a chance, the app is currently only out on iOS, but we're really, really proud of it. And I think it's a real sort of small glimpse of things to come. And where we want to take that next, we're announced a partnership with Hoopram, the tech incubator of T-Mobile, only a few weeks ago, where we're working on the Nreal glasses together with Unity and Qualcomm. And for us, this is a real killer piece of kit. The Nreal glasses are fantastically lightweight. The image is super bright. They're obviously they still work with a phone. They're not completely untethered, so still a long way to go. But as a starting point, we're really looking forward to bringing our avatars into the real world, in a really good user experience. Because holding up your phone still, obviously there's some challenges with mobile AR that you can sort of work around with user design, but in of itself, it's going to be a lot better when everybody just wears a headset and has a pair of glasses on. So look forward to that. That should be coming soon. So this journey that we've been on, what were the things that really mattered? And often, of course, it is about the journey more as much as it is about the destination. But having Martin there at the beginning, I mean, we couldn't have dreamed better. I mean, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because Martin obviously had the means to get the business off the ground. We didn't have to worry about raising seed round, if you like. But it's still quite challenging when you've got the guys put all the money sitting right next to you, because Martin operationally and creatively very much involved in what we were doing in the early stages. So a bit unnerving, but at the same time, it really allowed us within. We founded the company in late 2013, and by January 2015, we had Playworld in the market. So, in that whole time, we created everything. We created the artwork, we built the team, we found somewhere to house the team and everything else. And without Martin, that wouldn't have been possible. And without Martin, we would have been acquired very early on, because as soon as we put VTime into the market, that we had approaches. We were so quick to get into onto the Gear VR that people were a little bit bamboozled about in terms of where we came from. And without Martin, we would have been an acqui-hire pretty early on. I'm fairly certain of that. But Martin really allowed us to sort of stretch our legs, if you like, and took us all the way to a Series A, and we're about to close a Series B. So it was invaluable. So it's a bit of a cheat code, I guess, but it's still something that without Martin we wouldn't have been able to do what we're doing. And of course, the team we have is fantastic. Again, the team is something that I'm incredibly proud of, and that is really takes time to put together, and it's really hard to deal with things when maybe there's not a good fit within the team. But if you haven't got a great team, you're really going to struggle to hit all the right notes. And the focus and the vision, I won't lie, when we did Starship, that was hugely challenging. Doing that many or IPs that are that different was was hugely challenging. I wouldn't recommend it because just in terms of your headspace, it's a really difficult task to keep that many different plates spinning. So I wouldn't recommend it. Much happier with VTime, where we're focusing on transforming communication between people and the world around them. It makes our life a little bit easier in that respect. So, but it does matter. Of course, people want to know that you've got a real clear idea of where it is that you're going. You need to find investors who believe in the market. If you haven't got investors who believe in the market, you're wasting your time in terms of who you're talking to. When we first raised money, we were still at that phase where there was a lot of people who were like, skeptical, and of course you still find that today. If they're not already sold on this, that this is going to happen, then you're not going to be the one that convinced them. So it's easier today because I think especially last year the penny dropped for a lot of people, and there's a lot more scale and scope now, not just Silicon Valley, but also in the UK where we're based, and of course also in Europe. But yeah, find investors who believe in the market. And we're very lucky to have found some investors who share that same sort of long-term horizon that we've got. For pitches, you can't beat practice. Doing them is of course great, but practicing is also good. You start noticing a lot of things about your delivery, knowing your strength and points of differentiation. Everybody gets asked who's your competition, and you shouldn't be afraid of saying that there is competition. I mean, it's perfectly fine to say there's no one that directly competes with you, but you shouldn't say that you're unique, or that there's no competition, because then what are you doing? It's really hard to sort of really make a case for there being a viable business if you can't articulate that. Getting exposure early. We're big fans of getting product done and into the market, and it did make a huge difference for us. VTime was awarded Gartner. The analyst awarded VTime a Cool Vendor Award in 2016, and we wouldn't have received something like that when if we'd still been sort of developing the tech in the background. And the last point really that was the thing that really mattered the most is that execution is key. Ideas are great and being creative is fantastic, but everybody has ideas, and ideas are commodities. So having the ability to execute ideas and actually being able to deliver on them and delivered on them in high quality, was something that's incredibly important. So that was it. That was a real whistle-stop tour. I hope you found that interesting. Really happy to hopefully get a chance to meet some more people during the rest of the event. We're going to see a quick video of VTAG in a minute. If you want to check out the rest of the company, details are on the screen, and you can hit me up on Twitter or Clubhouse as below. So that's me. Thank you
very much for giving us all these great insights. And well, there's one question that popped up in our chat in the meantime. Let me quickly ask you this question. It comes from Alexandra, and she wants to know, Clemens, from your experience, what was the impact of COVID on the overall funding environment for tech, in specific XR? Hopefully you understood this question.
Yeah. So I think in the first half of last year, all the investors were just looking after their portfolio companies. I think everybody sort of hit the pause button, especially in the first few months, because people didn't really know what was going to happen. So investors, tend to be cautious at the best of time. So the first instance, they were just looking after the companies that they'd already invested in, and things came pretty much to a standstill. But the biggest challenge for us, we're fundraising right the way through the second half of last year, when things started opening up again, is of course we rely a lot on investor meetings. Put this headset on, or let's look at this in person, and being able to do that over Zoom, it is a challenge. So things take a lot longer, but there hasn't been a change in, I think, the amount of money that is being invested. And if anything, we've seen an increase in interest, particularly in the areas of remote collaboration and communication.
All right, Clemens, thank you very much for that answer. And another question pops up from Katka. Having your experience, Clemens, looking at the finalists, which one, that's a good but also a tricky question, which one do you find the most promising? I mean, you can decide if you want to answer or not.
It's an easy one for me, but only because of personal taste. I'm a huge fan of the Apollo missions. So for me, as soon as I saw what the first step on the moon team put together, I was just sold. So for me, that's my clear favorite of everything. But they've all been fantastic, and you know, there's some really exciting ideas, and it's too close to call. But for me personally, that was my favorite.
Thank you very much for that honest answer, and we'll see. Cross fingers for everybody, but we'll see if First Step is going to be one of the winners. Clemens, thank you very much for your lecture and